I apologize for the lateness. I literally had a complete network crash this morning. So doing what we can here. Let's jump in and take a look. Thanks for the intro. My name is Adam. I am with Smartbox, and I want to take you through Grid 3. I think you guys may be familiar with Look to Learn. If not, that's a pretty good resource and where I usually start in terms of introducing eye gaze or starting off with someone who's not used a device before. The activities in Look to Learn are fun, engaging. There's no right or wrong. You just kind of get into it and play with it, and it tends to be a pretty good intro to get people involved instead of spelling your name or doing something like that. What I'd like to do, of course, is show you Grid 3. And Dan, if you could open it up so I can share my screen. I'd like to show you Grid 3, take you through the page sets, and show you what's there in terms of samples, get you some basics in terms of user settings and device settings, access settings, and kind of give you a lay of the land so that you can jump in and become more familiar with Grid 3.
All right, you should be able to present now.
Still not letting me share. Let's try now. So I'm just going to share my screen. And then I'm going to launch Grid 3 and jump right into it. So Grid 3 tends to start with the users, and I could literally just jump in and create a new user. This is the welcome screen, and you get started. And start with a profile name. For simplicity, I'm going to call this Friday. And I can change the picture to literally whatever I want that picture to be. I can either grab a picture file, do a web search, use my camera, or of course a screen capture. So in simple terms, you can grab any kind of picture you want. Hopefully we didn't grab something too bad. And of course you can change your voice, test out, see how it sounds, change the pitch and whatnot. And this is creating this new user. And then we're going to come in and we can either add these accounts, or we're just going to skip this for the moment and get to the heart of the matter, which is the grid sets. So you see that Grid 3 is really involved in 6 different categories: symbol communication, text communication, interactive learning, which are the grid sets that take you between Look to Learn and Grid 3. And then the accessible apps are all of the standard computer functionalities like web browsing, email client, things that are built into Grid 3. And then, of course, service is our environmental control environment where you can send or transmit infrared or radio frequency signals directly from a grid pad or other communication system. Computer control is where you can use Grid 3 as an on-screen keyboard to access other programs. So all of your access methods, your inputs, your word predictions, all come in and are used with Grid 3 to access other programs. Okay, and I'm going to just select all of these, and it's going to populate this. The privacy is talking about will it learn, will it record your history, and it will use a GPS locator, or more specifically the Windows 10 Wi-Fi location, as part of the data that is stored for when I speak things. And then I'll just create the user. So come along here and we can find Friday and launch into that user.
Hey Adam, if you wouldn't mind maximizing your screen there, make it a little bit easier for us to see. Awesome.
Does that work for you?
Perfect.
Okay, we'll try to keep maximized for now. So what we've launched into is Grid 3. This is the Grid Explorer. What you see on the screen are all of the different page sets or grid sets that we have available to us. These are the samples that come in as I created a new user and started from scratch. Because this is based on a US English or an American Windows installation, it picked up my language and therefore installed the US English page sets. And I'm going to take you through them as quickly as I can just to give you an idea of what they are. But please don't hesitate to pop in and ask questions. As you can see, I've turned off the chat window, so I'm not reading those as they come in. Dan's going to help me with those. So what I'm going to show you is here are some core vocabularies. There are some basic symbol vocabularies with Symbol Talker A through D. Vocabulary for Life and Beeline, again, 2 more core vocabularies. And then the text-to-speech ones with Fast Talker and Text Talker. We also have the interactive learning pages that I'm going to show you, the accessible apps, environmental controls, and of course computer control. I'm going to very quickly just show you cause and effect. These are the interactive learning pages, Dilbert the dog. These are the transition between the look to learn activities, which are all cause and effect, choice, targeting, introduction of access to a computer, and now we're getting to Grid 3, where we're going to start to do some other things and communication. So if I go into Dilbert the dog, I have an animation in the center, along with some target cells on the edges. So I can feed Dilbert by selecting the sausages. In this case, I can use switch scanning, a head tracker, or an eye gaze, and even use dwell instead of click to be able to make these selections. So when I pick a food item like sausages, Dilbert is an animation in the center of the screen. It becomes interactive, so I can play ball with Dilbert. And of course, once we've done an activity, we want to be able to go in and talk about it. So there are some language features. Here's a very simple 2x3 matrix with some conversations about Dilbert. And we fed him sausages. And how did you feel about that? So this is introducing Dilbert the dog. I'm going to go back to the Grid Explorer and show you that there are some others in terms of choices where you have, for example, Car Maker. Here you have a sequential series of events. So we're presented with a car, and now sequentially we add the wheel. Then it tells us to add the roof, and then the headlights. So it's pretty straightforward, but I have to go one after the other and then build this car. Once it's done, it drives away on the track. Again, we can start to chat about that conversation, but now you'll start to see it starting to develop to starters and then the topic. So I built a car. As you progress through choices, you move to challenges. For example, on RoboSnail, now you have the animation in the center, but unlike the other one, this one is not sequential. So we need to look for this symbol to tell us what to do. And it's not the first one, but rather the second one. And now there's a fire, so we're not going sequentially. We have to look for what do you do for the fire. Let's put it out with the water cannon. So that's RoboSnail. And of course, you work your way up. Here's Park Life. You may have seen some of this within Look to Learn. Here's the animation, but unlike Look to Learn, where I'm just moving my cursor across things like the balloons or apples, now I have to pick a cell and select it. There's a starting with descriptions of the same thing, but now when I click on balloons, and of course, there's chat as well. So you'll see again. Now I've got a 3-key sequence to get there. So I encourage you to play around with those interactive learning sessions. These are pretty good transitionals between activities and speech. Next, I'd like to show you the Symbol Talker series. The Symbol Talker series is very similar to what we were just doing, where you have a starter and a topic. So you've got a simple 3x5 matrix with a sentence bar across the top and cells that tend to be fairly stationary in place. For example, the home key. Rest is allowing us to pause. It's a toggle on and off. When I rest, none of these cells can be selected. When I turn it back on, now I can get here. And that gives someone who's using eye gaze a chance to pause and not be active. It stops the screen from doing things and moving and selecting. And even at the basic level of Symbol Talker A, you add some things like being able to take pictures, play music or videos, even do some other things in terms of settings, being able to change my voice or being able to change my eye gaze settings to do calibration. All of this is accessible to the user. Then I go back to Grid Explorer. Symbol Talker B takes you to the next step. So now I've got a little larger cells where I've got a 4x6 matrix. Those cells that are the common cells are still in place. I have starters, small words, and now the topic. So again, and as I speak the sentence, you'll see that it highlights the items across the sentence. And now you see this is starting to develop the Fitzgerald key, starting to use color coordinations to be able to communicate. This cell itself is mixed up of speaking cells as well as a word list. These items like drink, water, and milk are not in an individual cell, but rather a series of predictions within a word list. So if I come up in here and go to word list, I can actually change this list of words that are in that page or on that page. So if I need to, I can just add a new one. So let's add iced tea. And you'll see there's separate words here. I'm just going to highlight here to combine them and pick a single item for iced tea. If it turns out I don't want iced tea to be the most popular, I can actually move it down this list just by a click and drag and move it down to wherever I want to place it. So we'll put it next to hot tea. You can also go in and change that list alphabetically or by frequency of use. You can also do nice things with it. For example, if you have a word list, you can either remove them all and start from scratch, or you can add words from a text file and just bring in a huge list of words. It will populate this list and then go out and get a symbol and match the symbol to the text. And you notice I did that without going into edit. That's just here on the menu bar to go into the word list. And then again, I'm going to go to Grid Explorer and progress. So here's Symbol Talker C. And now you start to get to some core vocabulary. Here again, you get into multiple contexts where you've got pronouns down the left, you've got verbs, you've got small words, and now these, instead of being the topic, they're actually topic branching to other pages. If I have I want, you want, it will actually predict it wants. It will help with syntax to conjugate verbs. If I go into drinks, it branches to another page and allows me to now pick which one I want. And you'll notice that the core pages stay here, but the topic pages will change. Of course, there's a keyboard so I can spell. And then if I go back, I can also describe it with words to describe. So this gives you an idea of some things. And of course, when we go to the special category, we still have the camera and the videos and the movies, but we also have some other advanced home automation. I can add things like, for a television, power it on, turn it off, simple volume or channel up and down, turn on a fan, or maybe turn the light on and off. Some basic home automation tools to give the person some independence. And of course, Symbol Talker D is more of a core vocabulary. Again, you have the core, the branches off, you've got different categories and groups, you do have a keyboard. It's more of the advanced level of core. In terms of primary core vocabulary, of course, we have word power 60 and 100. We also have SuperCore, which is a SmartBox written core vocabulary. There are a number of videos out nowadays talking about what is SuperCore and how do you implement SuperCore. There's also a SuperCore learning grid set, which puts fewer items on each page, so that you don't have to start with something quite so busy as this page. Here you'll see some standards where you've got pronouns, you've got verbs, you've got some small words, and then of course you have these other items on the two far right columns, which are topic based. So as I come in and start to predict it, and then when you go into news, of course, there's some news, chat, time, and it just gives you some categories in here. So SuperCore is easy to take a look at. There's the learning pages. We also have vocabulary for life as well as Beeline. Again, very busy, nouns, pronouns, verbs, objects, a lot of prediction. You've got topics that branch off to pages of categories. And then special categories again. So that just gives you an idea of Beeline. So I encourage you to play with those. Those kind of take you in through the symbol-based communications. Grid 3 comes with symbol sticks, as well as widget and PCS symbols. But if you also want, you can use digital photographs or other symbol sets. And then we can get into text-to-speech vocabulary for people who are literate. Text Talker is written primarily for people using Grid for iPad, which is the iOS 11 solution that uses Grid 3 on an iPad. In Grid for iPad, you no longer are integrating other applications. You're not incorporating the web browser or word processor or things of that sort. You're going straight to text-to-speech or symbol-based communication. It's primarily for voice output. So here's a keyboard. You've got a sentence bar across the top. You have a phrase prediction line. You have a word completion, word prediction line. And then, of course, a QWERTY keyboard. It's pretty easy to change this to an ABC if you like. just rearrange the keys. Now, as I start to type, the words will start to predict to give me word completion. And even though I may spell it wrong, it still will continue to predict. And I did word completion, and now it also does word prediction to predict the following word. And then as soon as I speak that, put a period, a question mark, exclamation, it will speak that sentence. You can speak every character, every word, or every sentence, or wait and speak the whole thing. So now we've got a phrase on the screen, we're talking, and all of a sudden someone comes and interrupts and wants to ask another question. I can store that message, which then clears the screen, type a new message, answer someone, talk to a second person, and then come back and retrieve the previous message so that it's like a second conversation. I can go off and then come back where I was. Then there's also a phrase bank that allows you to store messages. So down the left and right, you have topics or categories. If I want to talk about me or going out, and then these are the messages within that category. If I've typed out something on the keyboard, I can add it to each category. So I want to add it to going out. I just click add. I can either add it here at the last item, or I can put it anywhere else within here just by clicking that cell. And it just moves everybody else down the list. There's also message banking, which allows us to record messages or use the Tobii Dynavox Boston Children's Hospital website to record a whole bunch of messages and bring in the zip file and populate Grid 3 with those stored messages and either change their labels or put them in different categories depending on what I need. And that's Text Talker. And of course, there's Fast Talker. Fast Talker is another text-to-speech page set for literate users. This is one of our more popular ALS sections because I do have a chat window where I have a keyboard and can type out. You know that we have the same kind of a QWERTY keyboard and word completion, word prediction, but there's also a history. So it will actually keep track of the phrases that I've used in the past. So if I'm actually looking for something and I want to speak, I could type out a word like coffee, and then all of the phrases that contain that word will be predicted. I'm not starting at the beginning of the sentence, just whatever topic word I'm looking for, and it will pull those up and give them to me. Again, there's message banking. So topics, different categories with messages in them, and message banking. There's also other things you can do. For example, social media, where you can do Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, where it will actually display your Facebook page in the center, and the command codes or cells with other things to do are along the sides, so that I can jump down and cruise around through that. There's the ability to connect a Grid 3 to an Android or to an iPhone, and I can be able to use that to make phone calls, to receive phone calls, send and receive text messages, and also use it for email. And just within the email client, I'll have my email in the center with going to the inbox. I can open up and read pages. I can also save attachments, etc. Then there's service. Service is our environmental control environment. So I can set up televisions, set-top boxes, cable boxes, a DVD or stereo system, and some home automation. Within the television, I can send codes to turn the channels. I can set up a set-top box, go into my favorites, depending on which one I use, go in and then send codes for the different channels. I can do home automation where I can turn on lights. We're not selling the controls for opening doors and windows, just the infrared transmitter and receivers to trigger those openers. You can also do web and get into the web. So you can have the web browser in the center. You can go out to your favorites, pick a favorites page. Here's NPR. And again, you're using the cells around the outside to be able to operate it. Instead of just going down and scrolling down, looking for things, Grid 3 also allows you to just grab the links on the page. So it populates a page with links. So if I want to get to, for example, pick your NPR station, I can do that here in the cells instead of having to go step by step with a mouse.
How much longer are you?
Okay, so there's your web address. You can type it in, and the way it does it is actually builds the whole thing before it gets sent. And then sends the whole thing. You also have music, video, camera, calculator. Notes is a word processor. Going into computer control allows you to use Grid 3 as an on-screen keyboard to operate the entire device. So again, left click, double click, right click, there's click and drag. You can open up a keyboard, but it basically allows you to operate a Windows system from Grid 3. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to hop out and come back to Fast Talker. And then, of course, you have some settings controls where you can do eye gaze, speed dwell clicking up and speed it up, calibrate. You can change your voice independently. You can also go in and go to Grid Explorer and switch to different grid sets. Or, of course, you can even shut down your computer. So that's basically the grid sets I wanted to show you. There are others, for example, within the accessible apps. You've got all of these are plugins. You can copy these individually and stick them into your grid sets, or you can branch off, use them kind of like you do with your cell phone. And you branch out, you do email, then you come back. Your choice. You can either integrate them or do them separately. There's computer control with switches, and of course, simple or the advanced environmental control. Okay? All right, so the last thing I wanted to do is show you the user controls and the user settings, and then we're kind of okay with all of this. If I click on the menu bar and go into settings, this is where I'm going to find my controls. So here's my user settings about Friday, their profile, picture. I can decide where I want it to start. So I don't have to start here. I can actually go find Fast Talker and have it start in Fast Talker or Simple Talker A. I can also make it the primary user. In terms of access, here's where I have access. I can change it to be a pointer, an eye gaze, switches, touch, or voice. So when I go into eye gaze, set the camera, determine which camera I'm using, how many eyes I'm going to track, and once I've set that, I can come in and look at the activation. So am I going to dwell click, blink to click, or am I going to hit a separate switch to click? Meaning I can move with my eyes, but then select with something else. You can change how you highlight and do some different things in here, show progress. They have different ways of showing, kind of like a clock, to tell you how long before the dwell click selects, and it helps you focus on the object that you're trying to select. There's also switches. When you're using switches, you come in and change the configuration, the connection. If I'm using, for example, a grid pad, the switches are joystick. If I'm using an iSeries, then the switches are keyboard settings that go out to F13 or F14, and you can change what you're sending by changing the key from a keyboard, or pull a drop down and change to, for example, a mouse, a joystick, etc. as the input method. When you hit the switch, it'll light this up green to show you that you're active. Once you've made the connection, then you can go to activation and determine how do you advance it. Do you want to do a step scan, row column, column row, a block row column, a block column row, however you want to advance it, and then activate is how you select once you get there. If you're using eye gaze, of course, you're not going to be doing the switch scanning like that. Then you can change different speeds. Here's different options, highlighting, whether or not you skip things. This is where you set up auditory prompting. So in the highlighting area, you set it to speak the description, and that's the auditory prompt as you're going through. So that's the switch settings. Speech allows you to change the primary speaking voice or the auditory prompt, the voice, which speaker it comes out of, things like that. And whether it speaks character, word, sentence, paragraph, change the pronunciation of words, and of course message banking. So I can literally come in and add new recording or grabbing a WAV or MP3 file and attaching it to a cell. In writing, this is where we have the dictionary, and we can make some changes to how things are spelled. We can delete items from chat history if we like. We can change specific symbols if we want to assign a specific symbol to a certain word, things like that. There's abbreviation expansion. When you get to accounts, you talk about adding an email account. I can create a new free Smartbox account, which allows me to store my grid sets online, either for me in my own private settings or publicly, and share them with others. It also allows me to create remote editors, people who I am allowing to edit my page sets that I have stored on my cloud storage with my Smartbox account. In contacts, unfortunately, there is no fast way to import a list of contacts. You have to add them one at a time. You can add them from an incoming email, but you can't necessarily populate this from a huge list. In web, you can change your favorites. You can filter out certain websites. In computer, you can also come in and say that I want to launch Grid 3 when I start Windows. So, for example, if you want to be able to turn the machine on and get all the way up into your page set, you just have it launch into Windows automatically. If you have a phone connected, this will give you the phone settings. When you click on environmental control, this is where I go in and set up new appliances. So, in transmitters, I've got a GABA infrared transmitter. We also have the Z-Wave transmitter built into our systems. When you want to add a new television, you come in and create a new accessory. You just add the new accessory, tell you what kind it is. So are you adding a light switch, a television, a telephone? Are you just adding a socket? where you're going to plug in a fan or a light, or is it a set-top box? When you can then go in and use the standard transmitter from that set-top box to teach it these signals, which will then be duplicated by the GAVA transmitter. This is a database storing things. You may also be able to add them because a lot of appliances are already stored on the SmartBox website. And this is the settings category. You get there just by clicking on menu, settings. I also want to briefly show you about user settings because you can also back up and restore the user. So if I'm in a given user here, here's Dobie, I'm going to switch to a different user and I'm going to go back and pick Friday, click open, and I go into the user settings for this grid set. Here's Friday. I can make Friday the primary user, which allows me to back up and restore their page sets. When I click Backup User, all of their grids get stored to a single file user as an extension. And I can put it on anything, an external hard drive, a thumb drive, wherever I want to store that file in case I need it as a backup. Okay? So that so far is what I wanted to show you with Grid 3, just to give you a lay of the land and get you started. Are there other things you guys would like to talk about or questions you may have about Grid 3?
Guys, please feel free to unmute and ask questions. We got Adam with us today. Let's use this time wisely.
Come on, guys. I heard you were not shy.
There was a question asked in the chat session earlier, and you may have answered it and I missed it. Is there a way for the user to pause eye gaze while they're using the system and then unpause it?
That's a really good question, and the answer we did cover, but let me show you just so you see it. I'll go into a symbol talker, and there is a rest cell that's right here. And that toggles on and off, so none of these other buttons are active. I can't click on anything or select anything until I toggle it back on. One of the things I did not show you that you might be interested in, of course, is if I click on menu and go to edit, very quickly I'll show you where things are in edit. So you've got cells, you know, obviously we don't have too many blank cells, but theoretically we would. On the left are the commands that are assigned to it. Here we have a jump cell. All of these are jump cells. So when I go to drinks and follow the jump, now I'm on the drinks page. Home is a jump cell. Rest is a toggle. And I can show you some more rest cells as well. There's a delete word, a speak. There's no clear all, so we can just add a clear by going to create cell. So I can either search for it, and it tells me it's in chat and writing, and I can just add the clear button right there. Here, the green one, that's the starter, and it says I want. The little blue thing with the dots tells me that this is a word list. Again, I talked about editing that word list. And I'm just going to delete that cell and add something else. We can create a new cell. And then these are the favorites, are the right cells, speak, delete word, and jump. But you've got categories like chat and writing, jumps, recordings. You've got working with different things like email. And of course, the speech settings, access settings, and grid 3 settings are a lot of the menu items that I can do on my mouse that allows the user to be able to do things themselves, like change voice, change speed, things like that. You click on chat and writing, and then you can go in and find the ones that are in that category. One of the things that I wanted to show you is the rest cell. So if I type in here rest, I've got a lot of different kinds of rests. So for example, I can rest different access methods. I can just rest a pointer or touch. What I really probably want to do is rest eye gaze, but keep touch active if I still want to touch on the screen while my client rests. So instead of this rest key, I would change it to rest eye gaze only. Okay.
Adam, can you show us where you can access other languages, and can you toggle back and forth between English and another language?
Why would you want to? Yes, of course. I'll get to language in just one moment. Let me quickly show you what's up here on this menu. At the top, this is the edit menu. You click on grid set. It shows you an icon for all of them. These are all the pages that are in there. You can copy pages. You can move them elsewhere. You can rename them. You can add them from another grid set and go find a single page from a different grid set and bring it in. Things like that.
And hey, Adam, while you're on some settings here, can you show us how someone with eye gaze would be able to move buttons around on their own?
Yes, of course. So while we're here, I'll show you things like I want somewhere else, or here's a clear button. You know what? I think I'm going to put the speak and the clear here and move the rest. All I have to do is select the cell and drag it to wherever I want. It automatically swaps places with the one I'm dropping it on, or I can move certain cells out of the way, grab all of them, move all 3 of them down, and then put this one on top. So you can manipulate things pretty quickly.
And I mean, would it be the same when someone's using eye gaze, not a mouse or touch?
The quick answer is no, because I'm in edit mode. The user's not able to get into self-edit mode, with the exception of they can do things like add or subtract things out of a word list. In other words, this is a word list. Here, I'm going to finish editing, and then I'm going to switch to a different grid set. And I'm going to go to Fast Talker. And then we were talking about, grid sets, messages. These are a word list. So remember when I said you can add or remove? The user can literally add or remove things to a word list. That's all this is, even though the one in Symbol Talker is symbols. And this one is text. It's the same. Let me follow the jump. Let me go home. There are different cells here. So across the top, you've got the home, and this is where I can do things like copy, paste. So I can copy a cell. If I've created one, I can copy it. Then I can move to another page, and I can paste that cell anywhere I want. There's the Z cell. I can take this add phrase, I can copy it, I can move to a different page, just follow the jump, and then paste. So it's pretty easy to copy and paste and move things from page to page. Style lets you change the style of things. So here is a home cell, different categories, jumps, messages. I can create them. This is the style. I can change the shape of the object, the fill, the border, the surround. I can change the font color, the font size. And if I do so, I can also create updates to all of it. So here's messages, jump to the messages page, and here's quick fire or icebreakers. This is a jump. Messages 2. If I want, I can change the shape. I can change the font. I can change the size of the font. I can change color. I can change the background color. Fill color. And then I can also update the style so that all of those buttons get changed at the same time, or I can leave that one individually. If I've made a mistake, I simply click the undo button and everything's back the way it was. One at a time until I get rid of all of my mistakes. In layout, you can add rows and columns. You can insert a row above. You can change that row to be less tall or more wide. So you can manipulate the matrix. It's not straight matrix. And of course, on any given cell, you can stretch them and make them different sizes. So you can really manipulate things. You can use digital photographs. You can use transparent buttons with digital photographs as an active scene display, whatever you want. And then, of course, within Grid, you've got audio highlighting, scan blocks that allow you to change where you scan. It doesn't have to be a contiguous block. Audio highlighting is so you can literally change the prompt on a cell and go from there. Okay.
Adam, when you did the update on all the cells, is there a global setting where you can change the font and color throughout the whole grid set?
I think the quick answer is yes. You can go in and change them for everything because you're really saying that you want to change the style. So if you already have a style, defined style, you can come in and open up the different styles. So here's a style. You create different styles. So if you have a generic first style, you can change all cells to have that style and modify it from there. I'm going to get out of this for a moment. I'm going to switch over to Grid Explorer and Symbol Talker A. Now, one of the things that I might do is I might need to have English and Spanish. So one of the things I can do is click Menu, Add, and I'm going to add a grid set. You see these are the standard grid sets that we've had. These are the ones that came in. If I want, I can click on Symbol Communication, click on Next. Here's SuperCore, Word Power, Symbol Talker. So it's easy for me to go back in and get a replacement. So if I've made a bunch of changes, made some mistakes, I can go back to the default page set quickly just by adding it in. I can also come in and search online grids. So if there are things that I'm looking for example, I need one that is in ABC instead of QWERTY. So I can go look to see if anybody's done an ABC layout for some of the things I want. So here's Text Talker that might be ABC, and I can just add that quickly. In addition to that, you see here at the bottom it says English US. I can also change, for example, to Spanish. And now I can go in to the Comunicaciones and grab a Symbol Talker grid set. Here's Symbol Talker A. And I'm going to add that. You'll see it gives me a number 2 because there's already one in there. So I'm going to click Menu, Arrange, and I'm going to change this one to, instead of number 2, I'm going to say Espanol. and I'm going to move this one just by click and drag. I'm going to go set it next to this. So finish arranging. Now I have Symbol Talker A and Symbol Talker Spanish. When I go into Symbol Talker A Spanish, it looks familiar. Here's drinks, water, quiero agua. Comprendo? So now I'm in Spanish. Now it's speaking Spanish. If I go to Grid Explorer and switch to Symbol Talker A, now it's drinks. So there's actually a command that is being given to switch page set and to switch voice output. So menu, edit, and let's say I don't need the rest key. So I'm going to replace the rest key. And I'm going to create a cell. And that cell is going to be a grid settings to change grid set. I wanted to jump to from Symbol Talker A to Symbol Talker Spanish. And I'm going to change the label. And I can change this picture. Save it. So here I am in Symbol Talker A. Click on this cell. And now I'm off to the other one. And I can do the same thing here, but create one that branches back to the American English version. Does that answer your question about languages?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure they're going to spend a lot more time on content, setting up multilingual vocabulary sets. This is how you can do it. It's just not pre-done for you. What else, guys?
Hey, Adam, I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one, on the symbol-based page that you're looking at right now, is there a reason why you chose to have the buttons look like they're almost grayed out?
Pick a symbol set.
Go to Symbol Talker A that you were just in.
And why are these picture colors the way they are?
No, when
Why is the yellow faded out?
Yeah, the buttons on the right-hand side, when I'm looking at it on my i15, they all look like they're almost grayed out.
I can't say exactly why that is. I don't think they're. It's not like they're part of the speaking part. They are almost hidden in the background. They are stationary, but they don't really affect your speaking. So that's
Sure.
why they make
They're function buttons, pretty much. Yeah. So, then the other question is do you have auditory fishing?
Try that again.
Auditory fishing for individuals that are visually impaired, where they drag their fingers across the buttons, it announces something to them either privately, and then when they want what they want, or when they come across the button they want, they release the button and it speaks to the public.
Yeah, you can do that within the settings, basically. So in terms of settings, that particular one in access, you're talking about a pointer. And instead of click to activate, I'll try to find out. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is, but the bottom line is it's on release instead of on touch. So press switch. These are switch ones instead of pointers. Touch first item touch or touch and hold to activate, last item touched, so that's touch and release. That's where you're going to be able to do some of that. In terms of preview,
touch exit. Yeah, I'm familiar with touch exit, but yeah, if you can show me where preview is.
So within preview, you've got an audio feedback. So access, you're setting it up. I can't remember its pointer here, where you've got an auditory prompt, speak description when highlighting. We have the same thing in touch. So speaks description when highlighting, and that will do what you're asking it to. So there should be a description on a cell that will highlight as I go through here. Let me verify that I've set it up to that speech. Because I'm doing pointer, I'm doing a mouse, and I didn't set it up with a description. So you're basically doing the same thing when you're touching it with your finger. Is that enough to get you started?
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to check it out. I've got a team that are heavy. They've been talking about this for years. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting phrase that you used, auditory fishing, because I was told there was no talking in fishing.
That's good. Nice one.
Any other questions, guys?
Do you have other forms of keyboards? We've only seen QWERTY so far.
You've only seen QWERTY. That's a problem in some cases. So I'm going to go out to settings. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to go to Explorer. And here's Fast Talker and such. Of course, now it's going to talk until I get it to stop doing that. So let me go in here and turn off the speak. Off the speak. And now I'm going to come in here and click on menu, add, and let's do text to speech. So Fast Talker, obviously I'm going to find it there. So add, online grids, search, ABC, Text Talker, okay, add. Let's go see what keyboard they gave us here. So here's an ABC. I personally don't care for this one. The way I prefer it, I'm going to edit. And I'm going to do A, B, C, D, then E, F, G, just because this is the way I would prefer to see it, and you can manipulate it. So we have some, there are some around, but everybody starts with QWERTY. So I like it with the vowels down the column, and I would manipulate this to do that. If I finish editing, and I go out here to Grid Explorer, and I go out here to Users, and I may find that Dobie Gillis or Bob may have different keyboards. Let me see what I've got. Nope. Different ones there. That's Dobie Gillis. Let me go try a different user to see what I have, because sometimes I may set them up differently. So it doesn't look like I have any of the ABC layouts done. But it's pretty easy to redo them or ask for them because they're available. If you need them, we can get them. If you don't have them, we can get them pretty easily. Or you can make them and then add them to the online grids. Sounds like we're getting to the end of the day, guys. Do we want to stop here, or are there any other questions you guys might have?
Hey, Adam.
Yes.
I have a quick question regarding those page sets in different languages. Now, were those page sets designed by, for instance, the Spanish one? Were they designed by you guys, or is that something that somebody had taken that page set and posted that online?
So one of the questions you're asking is, when I go in here to my Grid Explorer and I add a grid set, where did they come from? So here are the standard grid sets for English US. If I were to go to French, these are the grid sets that are available in French Canada. So that's where I'm picking the language here. If I go to online grids and I look for certain things or find certain things, and I click on any given one. Here's Dilbert in French, here's YouTube. So there are different ones, and I can look at them, and it will actually tell me that Jules made that one. It'll tell me what symbols are in it. This one was done in French, not Canadian. Usually I can do the same thing with these. So Symbol Talker. It shows me this is French Canadian, built by Smartbox. It's for symbol communication. Symbol Talker uses widget and symbol sticks, and it's free to use. So it's in this add section where you have that detail. Who built it and where did it come from?
Perfect. Thanks, Adam.
All right, guys. This has been fantastic, and Adam, we're certainly very appreciative to have you on and conducting this training. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, guys. I know this is a lot to swallow. I wanted to at least point you to some resources. If you go out to the website, which is thinksmartbox.com, there's a support and training section that has not only a knowledge base where you can ask questions, but there's also learning resources where you can come in and look at the grids, lesson plans. There's a PDF with step-by-step, and there's also YouTube video to watch, which is really just doing the card and showing you how.
You read my mind, Adam.
Resources for you to look at. Almost like we've been doing it all week, Dan. So that's in the support and training section of our website.
Awesome resource right here, everyone. If you haven't gone in there already, definitely do. And start running through those resources, and you'll get a really good understanding. A little bit deeper dive, too, into some of the software as well.
We didn't really talk about extras, things like Pod. If you guys need to look at the Pod page sets, they are license restricted. So if you guys need Pod licenses, you can either get with April or go directly to me, and I can coordinate with her to get you guys Pod codes to be able to open up those resources. Just let me know what things you might need as you explore.
Excellent. And hey, Jeanette, there's a question in the chat window here. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Jeanette, if you could unmute, could you explain a little bit further?
Good morning. Yeah, is there a U.S. number for tech support, or should they just use the online form, customers until October? Should they just use the online form to get in contact with someone, or is there a U.S. number?
The best phone number for them to call is 800-344-1778 and ask for Jeanette.
I don't know how much help they'll get there.
There's an 800 number. It's actually Smartbox has 844-341-1778. 7386. And extension 1 is customer service. And hopefully we'll be able to get them some answers as we go. For those of you on the East Coast, going to ThinkSmartBox.com and going to the chat window in the bottom right corner is an instant message directly to support. And they work from 9 to 5 England. So that means that by about noon o'clock in the East Coast, they're gone for the day. But we still have U.S. support that is out on the West Coast that continues throughout the day.
Excellent.
And just so you know, it was 341-7386.
Oh.
844-341-7386.
Thank you. They might not be happy if they call the 7387 number.
Yeah, but I would be. No, but really, give me a call. Let me know if I can help, or send me an email or a text, and I'll do what I can to help you out, certainly during the transition.
Man, thanks so much, Adam. This has been phenomenal. Adam's done 4 of these sessions this week, and I mean, really just taking time out for you guys. So if you get a moment, definitely send him a thank you, and we sure are appreciative of you. And if there's any other questions beyond this, guys, go ahead and send them to me or to your RD or to Adam. And we're compiling those now so that we can grab everything together that we need moving forward for some more in-depth, deep dive trainings on grid, software, and beyond. All right? So happy Friday, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. And this wraps up the call. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
You too.